hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here. Hey, Sheena.
Hey.
First of all, I need to let you know that red lip baby is doing it for me. I can't even lie. I
Yeah.
mean, absolutely stunning. How are you feeling today, gorgeous?
I am in the building and I am feeling myself.
Yes, as you should be, looking good, looking good. How, let's know how we always start our, the show, doing a quick temperature check in. How has your day been? How has your week been?
Um, I'm thriving.
Okay,
That's
okay,
a good word. That's a good
okay.
word. Excited, happy, a lot of stuff coming down the pipe that I'm
Yeah,
excited about. So
okay.
crossing fingers, toes, and staying ready so I don't have to get ready.
You know what? I like that. I like that. Well, for me, how was my day? How's my week been? I can honestly say my day was quiet. Not it was uneventful, and I enjoyed it. Got some minor errands done. Stuff I don't be feeling like doing. I promise I need me an assistant. I need to already be wealthy so I could just hire people to do all the things that I don't feel like doing. Right? I just need that. I just need that in my life.
Delegate.
Yay, yay. As far as my week go, my week has actually been really good. It's been quiet, uneventful, productive in ways where I can see that it's been productive. Because like I'm a person that's always doing something, which you know this already. But it's one thing to be busy, but see, some results of just your busyness, right? So I feel
Hmm.
like I was productive, and like I said, I can actually see the things transpiring from my productivity. So I'm loving all of that. So yeah, but
Wonderful.
yeah, so look, y'all, let's go ahead right back to it. Last episode we was talking about dating burnout, and we are still talking about dating burnout, right? But we got stuck on I'm sorry, on dating apps because y'all was just like, oh, we got something to say. This was a whole lot. And I guess I didn't realize as much as I was doing research and talking to other people, how dating apps has really been, affecting how we engage with one another in both good ways and bad ways. Don't get me wrong, guys. I don't want to make it seem like it's all bad, but it was really good conversation. I wanted to take and bring back part two because there was so many other spaces, want to talk about with dating burnout that we didn't get to touch on. So I want to hop right into that. But we're gonna start with our questions. Y'all know how we do. We got two questions from followers. The first question I'm really excited about. It was a male follower, and the question is, I find it challenging to start conversations when first meeting someone. What are a few conversation starter questions? I was like, I really like this because that goes to show that this gentleman, he is aware of where he's having some challenges, right? And clearly he wants to be able to engage with people. And I understand if you're not a person, like if you're not, especially not a social person, it can be challenging to start conversations. Like I know people who generally, like who literally who are introverted. So having to like start a conversation, even small talk, is just like, it hurts,
Mhm.
right? So I understand that. Now a few starter questions that I would say, one that I really like, and it's so interesting because a friend of mine asked me this last night. They asked me, what is something new that you have learned and you found so exciting about learning? So I think that's a good starter conversation question, especially if you're talking to an individual who's a sapiosexual. That
Mhm.
can be really fun, right? Or you can even ask that person, tell me a weird fact that you know. That can be a fun starter conversation, right? Because it doesn't allude to anything. It's engaging. It can be fun. It can be whatever you want the space to be, also, right? Because I think sometimes we get so stuck up on the question of, how was your day? What's your favorite color? Favorite food you like to eat, favorite restaurant, all those things. So I think those two are really good questions. How about you, Sheena? Because I feel like we've had this conversation before.
We have, because I despise mundane questions. I despise it with my whole cellular being.
Ooh,
My thing that I actually like to ask is, what's your guilty pleasure? What's
ooh,
a,
that's a
what's a guilty
double-edged sword
pleasure?
now.
I don't care if it's cereal, if it's a song, if it's a movie.
Mm.
I love musicals.
Okay.
Musicals are my guilty pleasure. So when I'm asking that, it's an open-ended question that people can answer, and it also tells me a lot about the person where they
Mm,
choose to start when they answer.
mm,
So do they start with food? Do they start with movies or music or something I don't want to hear about? But it's it gives me kind of an insight on a person. So
mm,
that's top of my list.
I like that. I like that. Your favorite guilty pleasure. That's actually a really good question. I'm gonna have to try it next time I engage with a pretty lady. It's like, what's your guilty pleasure? I'm gonna say a lot more sexy though. Maybe. All right. Well, question number 2. This one comes from a female follower, and this one here made me giggle. Her question is: she says, "I have a fantasy of having sex in public. Do you have any safety tips besides don't get caught? LOL." Now, like I said, this one made me giggle because it's one of those things where it's like it can be a taboo space, right? Because of the fact that you are going to engage in something so personal, sorry, in a public space. Now, here's the thing: it depends on where you want to have sex in public. That's number one. Now, if you like in a bathroom, like at a restaurant or something like that, that could be a fun, space to have public sex. What I would say is being mindful, one,
Mhm.
of what stall you go in. That's number one. Noise control. You can't be in there
Yes,
hooping and hollering. That's number
yes,
2.
yes.
And then also safety, because it depends on the partner like that you're engaging with, right? So I'll say like for a vulva on vulva sex, right? It's some acrobatics that might have to happen in that stall. So making sure you're in a big enough stall so people can do what they need to be doing. um Also, think about cleaning up, right? So if
Mhm.
you are an individual like you're a squirter, maybe you need to be mindful of how you're being stimulated, because you don't want to walk out the bathroom with vulva juice every doggone well. You want to make sure you left how you came in there. You don't want to look like you've been in there doing something, right? Um, so there's that, thinking about that. And then also like, washing hands and all these things that go into it. So like I said, just like cleanliness before actually engaging in the bathroom. Oh, make sure the bathroom is clean. That's number one. Make
Mhm.
sure it's clean. So like I said, just doing all of that. What's a good public space to the car. Oh, love car ideas, right? Because it could be really cute, like do like a cute little car date, and then like like a little blanket or whatever you want to do in the back seat or even the front seat, depending on how flexible you are. You throw your legs around. Again, depending on the person. Anyway, point is, car sex is also something fun, but making sure you're in space where one, nobody can see you,
Mhm.
because you don't want to be labeled as a sex offender. Because you want to do the do in the park. So being mindful of where you are in the car, time of day. That's also another thing too. Like if it's in the day, they might not need to be doing it in a broad daylight, because people be walking around and doing stuff, walking their dog and whatnot. Next the dog walker then walk past you hooping and hollering. Also noise control. That's another thing too for that. So yeah. But how about you, Sheena? Do you have any tips for safe public sex activities? I'm not the clip to throw you nasty look at you.
I
Now
never
that
said
baby
I
doll
never said I
smile, no
wasn't.
ma'am.
I never said I wasn't. I never said I disclaimer. Okay, so noise control is actually like my 1 through 5.
Ooh.
Noise control, you covered everything that I would have said, but I actually, when it comes to public engagement, foreplay,
Oh.
very physical foreplay rather than the act, the sneaking the hand up the skirt, the under the
Mm.
table, the quaint, almost got caught out of the way spaces. Crowded places in line, hand down the shirt, hand in the pocket, sitting next
Oh.
to each other on the plane, blanket on
Uh,
the lap, movie theater, elevator,
my
sneaking.
girl's a good time. Okay.
But look, we like to have fun. We like to have
Uh,
fun.
mm,
But the foreplay, the
Okay.
rather than it's the build up to something else.
Right. I like that she said that. Yeah.
That's I always find that interesting.
Uh-huh.
Is the extended play.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so noise control, cleanliness, and foreplay.
Mm-hmm.
And cleanliness, like you said, in all forms. Also, not just making sure the stalls are clean or big enough, but making sure they're sturdy.
Ooh, I ain't thinking about this, especially a door. If you grab it onto the
Be-
door, my God.
Now that wall, you get that hand on that wall on the side.
Woo!
The last thing we need is a domino effect.
Lord have
Last thing,
mercy.
because sometimes that weight. So
That's true. That
you
is
want to make
true.
sure that um they got good support on them prongs, on them screws and things.
That's right. That's right. It's something else I want to add before moving on because I like that you said that about foreplay because I thought about, like toys, like vibrating panty
Mhm.
attachments. That
Mhm.
can also be a form of public sex too, especially if you're nervous and you're wanting to try
Mhm.
it. That could be a good starting point for you. So just getting like a really cute, this is just female, for I'm not
Mhm.
female, sorry, but for vulva holders. Again, just getting a cute little panty vibrator, something that you can hide away, give to your partner with a remote control, and even the ones that I really like. Anybody who know me know one thing about me. We Vibe,
Mhm. Yes.
that's my brand. I'm sorry. Like they need to go ahead and pay me because I make sure to tell everybody We Vibe is the stuff, right? Because the reason why I say that is because one, it is the functionality of the toy. That's number one, and
Mhm.
how quiet it is. And two, it gives you so many
Control.
options. Like you can
Mhm.
be anywhere in the world, like most toys nowadays. You can be anywhere in the world and control the toy. So instead of it being like a remote where you're in your pocket doing something, your person
Mhm.
can have their phone and they just out here just messing with you, just
Mhm.
you enjoying all the vibes. They can make vibration patterns for you and all of that. So, like I say, just going back in that space, that could also be a really good way to engage in public sex. So, yay, even that, yay. Or even what?
So
That could be good for public sex for yourself because you could take and
yes. Ooh.
masturbate in public. Again, with your toy. Have your good remote control toy again or something with an app. You just sitting around wherever you at, just busting and
Now
flirting
me looking
away.
for something to take notes. So in that same vein, I have now in the last few months seen um app control toys for others. I've
Mm.
seen the C rings,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
there's one more that's app control, and I can't remember what it's called because I think it is a brand specific toy,
Okay.
but it is for our male counterparts.
Hmm.
So
Okay,
if
look,
you
penis holders,
it
y'all got something soon.
look if your husband, your boyfriend, your sub, well, any combination thereof, you know, he can play too. So the
Yes.
space is expanding for options.
Right. Right. And I'm loving that too. I'm really loving that. But also, yeah, thank you, Sheena. I appreciate your insight, especially adding that the aspect for penis holders. I think that's something we need to talk about a little more when we're talking about pleasure for itself, but just having attachments and toys along with that. So yeah, y'all look, let's jump right on in. Continue talking about dating burnout. So like I said, last episode we left off, we were talking about dating apps, right? And all the good, the bad, and the ugly going along into having accounts for dating apps and engaging dating apps and engaging people on the dating apps, right? But we're gonna float on through and now we're gonna start talking about communication, right? And I'm really interested in your because no not interested sorry because we have conversations about communication all the time, right?
Mhm.
Specifically especially we're talking about people that we have been dating or have dated and oh and where they lacked in certain spaces.
Mhm.
Communication seems to be a really big a big barrier for a lot of individuals that I talk to, especially when I was talking about this episode of the show. So many people I asked about communication, it was the feedback I got was repetitive, right? And it was
Mhm.
always people don't have good communication skills. People are not
Mhm.
talking about it. And I'm like, you know what? That may be fair, but how much of that is you and how much was the other
Mhm.
person, right?
Right.
And I say that because there are so many spaces where there is differences in methods of communication, right? And I mean that in spaces of actually communicating with somebody. So we talk about like cell phones particularly, right? I'm an individual, I don't like to text. I despise texting because one, texting can leave so many spaces where it can be misunderstood. Honestly, you may not get it. It's just so much that can happen with texting. And on top of that, I'm a very intentional person. So when I'm responding to a person, I'm sitting and I am actually responding to you with intention. And I'm always, like I said, I'm always doing something. So for me to stop and have to text, that means I gotta stop what I'm doing, pick up my phone, and do this. And that requires too much for me. I prefer a phone call. And on top of that, I feel like I get more from the engagement when it's a phone call than I do through text message, right? And not even just methods of communication like through text message, right? Those who engage in multiple spaces, right? So you'll go from the cell phone talking to somebody through text, then social media sending somebody something. It's like this is a whole lot, right? So what are your thoughts on this? I feel like I said a lot. Like, what do you think about that? That part right there, just the methods of communication.
So we're on the same page from start to finish. Communication is a revolving door and a two-way street. So if you like communication, if you are an extremely communicative person, it's your job to communicate that. It's your job to say, I don't particularly do this. Like if someone gets my phone number, I will expressly say, just plain and simple, I know people's schedules are busy, but I prefer phone calls. I'm not particularly a texting person. And I'll let people know I text from time to time, but I don't get to know you through text. I don't get to understand you through text. And I will tell someone I don't like miscommunications as often as possible. So I prefer not to text. Now, if you keep texting me after I said I don't like to text, then we have a miscommunication and I'm not with it. But it is up to me to express that and express it clearly. So in such a way that's not, oh, well, why don't you give me a call later? No, say I want you to call me later, or I would prefer a call later. Or I don't have time for texting. It's easier for me to be on the phone. It's less complicated for my schedule to be on the phone.
Right.
Something to let them know that actually dialing a number is preferable. Communication styles are varied even among people who are communicative. I meet some people who are in-person people. They're not even phone people. And I could go with it or I could go without it. But it is, I think being intentional is a foundational thing. Whether it's a flirting thing, a long-term thing, a side piece, fold you up like a lawn chair, business partner, whatever. Don't answer me. Whatever you're engaging in, it is vital to discover and be intentional about how you communicate.
Right.
So.
Right. You know what I love? I love the fact that you said that it's the individuals, it's your job to, first of all, communicate your communication style, right? I love that you said that because what that does, that puts you in space where you are accountable for you and how you want to be engaged in space when you're sharing space with somebody else. And I love that. I love that you said that. But I want to pivot just a little bit too when talking about now conversation etiquette, right? That's why when the male follower asked me about, conversation starter questions, I smiled because I was like, you know what? I love this. It's like, you know how the universe works for you? It was one of those moments, right? Conversation etiquette. Oh my goodness. I think a lot of that plays into people's communication skills. I don't think a lot of people have good communication skills. I really don't. A lot of people take and also don't know how to read a room.
That's the one. That's the one. That one right there. That should be on a big sign that flashes neon red and yellow. Just right there. That's the one. That's the read the room.
Yes, read the room. But you know something, I want to add that a little bit because I had a conversation with someone today, as we were talking about communication style. She was telling me about her current partner she's talking to, and how he interacts in public spaces. And then she was describing, his behavior. I said, you know what, this sounds like an individual that might have some social anxiety, or he might also be introverted. And I think, also we have to consider people's personalities
Yes.
too when engaging with somebody. But again, going back to your point before, it is the individual's job to communicate types of personalities, especially if you're one
Right.
who's introverted. You may not like to be on the phone. Why? Because that requires a lot of energy for you to engage. And that's totally understandable, right? But for somebody like myself who's extremely extroverted, I can sit on the phone for hours because
Right.
and I'm also good at multitasking. So I can continue to type, answer emails, respond to
Yeah.
like
Well,
all while
yeah.
sitting
Yeah.
on the phone. Like I could, this.
Yep. 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 Yep.
But that again, that's something that again the individual has to communicate or should communicate when talking to somebody, right? And I
Mhm.
think even when talking, that's like just staying on the aspect of personality, dealing with someone when you're an extroverted person and you're engaging with somebody who's extremely introverted,
Mhm.
communication there is interesting. It
It
is
is.
so interesting. And it requires a lot of talking and actually
Does.
expressing, right? Because with your introversion looks different than the other person. My
Right.
extroversion looks different from the other person, right? So being able to communicate what that looks like to me, so that one can make a decision. Can this be something I really can deal with? Like, can I actually deal with this type of person?
Mhm.
And two, if I can, how can I engage with you, one, safely? And by that, when I say safely, is in a way where I don't lose me and I feel whole and valued and validated and seen in this space with you,
Mhm.
right? Um, Again, I feel like I said a lot, girl. What are your thoughts on that?
So, as someone who functions in an extroverted and an introverted space,
Mm-hmm.
I go through both spaces.
Mm.
Sometimes I'm social butterfly, I am all the stardust, and then sometimes I find my shell and I hunker down.
Mm.
Um, what I have found is required on both sides of the conversation um, is intentional inquiry and patience. So
Mm.
if I know I don't feel like doing a bunch of talking, but I know my friend will talk, or whoever I'm engaging is going to talk, I'm going to ask questions that is going to prompt them to talk,
Mm.
so I can be an active listener. And
Mm.
then there's an energy exchange, and I'm still cognizant of who I'm engaging and making them feel seen, but without overextending
Mm.
myself when I'm in an emotional shell,
Mm.
emotional, physical, mental, however that goes. When I'm in a shell, it is like when we've talked and you'll
Mm-hmm.
say something like, "Are you in space for XYZ?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it allows me to communicate whether I am or not. But I also know that if I'm going to listen because you have something to say, I'm going to ask pointed questions. I'm going to specific,
Mm.
even more specific than normal.
Mm.
And it's going to allow me to hang back without making the other person feel ignored or
Mm.
like I'm not interested,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
things like that, because I'm also cognizant of how I want to feel when I'm extroverted. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't sit there and don't say nothing. Don't let me talk for 15 minutes. And like, did you hear anything I just said? They're like, uh-huh, yeah. Really? Well, what
Repeat
color
the
was the
last thing
horse
I
that I was
said.
just talking about?
What
You
is
know, pop quiz. But um, it's patience and intention on both sides of the
Right,
conversation
right, right.
is is really a big thing for me in
Mm-hmm.
communication. Um, and my observation is people could benefit from those particular interpersonal skills
Mm.
when they do so.
Mm,
Yeah.
I like that you said that, and it's something else I try to express to people, especially when I'm I know the type of communicator that I am. I try my best to be mindful of over communicating because I am a person that's going to tell you, hey, this is this. Like it's so funny, right? And I'll say this because just in dating, right? Because again, dating burnout. This is one of those spaces where I have found I am so burned out because I'm a person where, like I said, I communicate heavily, and the individuals that I was dating at the time, they were not, they could have done better. I'll say that. I will say they could have done better. But I will say one thing I did learn in those spaces was that a lot of the ways they communicated came from a lot of spaces of just being uncomfortable in expressing things or in engaging in certain ways. And I am okay with you being uncomfortable. My thing is, how can you find space so you can communicate to me that you are uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really want to tell you this, but I don't know how because this is uncomfortable for me. You
And
know?
that's why I said patience, because depending on where you are in your connection with someone, if I just met you, not only am I not going to be vulnerable with you, I don't trust you yet.
That's fair.
I don't care if you pay for dinner and my bills. I don't trust you yet.
That's fair. That's fair.
So it's, and some people are trusting, or whatever they feel makes them vulnerable or not vulnerable. Some information might be vulnerable information for some people or not for others. So it really is contingent upon where that person is at with their feelings of safety with you, or in the group, in the environment. It doesn't even just have to be one-on-one. Do I feel safe enough to say these things, to say that I'm introverted, or, you have some people who are observers. Like, I'm an observer. People go, "Oh, what's wrong with you? You ain't saying nothing." "Oh, I haven't, but I got plenty to say. I'm in no shortage of words." But you have people who will hang back just to get a bead on who they're interacting with. So if I feel like I can be a little more raw and say I had a sub this week and not last week, or, if I just should stick to talking about nails. Every environment's not, read the room, read the room. But some people are reading the room and making that decision. So it could be the first conversation, it could be the fourth conversation, it could be the 54th conversation. It just depends on where they are with you.
That's fair.
Deciding whether you want to have patience with learning someone's communication. That's the other thing.
Yes, right. Because again, it's on both ends. So I don't want it to be perceived that the person on the receiving end, or has to be a certain way, or the person on the giving end, they also have to be a certain way. It's an energy exchange. It's back and forth. Both individuals have to. I think it would be best if both individuals engage this space from an open mind, open heart. Because when you do, the space you're talking about, just being patient, that's something that you can offer somebody.
Right.
Because to communicate, especially intentionally, requires an open heart and an open mind, because you have to first of all, engage with people in ways that requires you to sit and be mindful, right? And work this mindful exercise. And that could be challenging, especially when spaces where people is just like, people can be exhausting. They really can be exhausting.
So going back to, in this same vein, going back to the gentleman's question of conversation starters, it's paying attention to whoever you're approaching. Pay attention to their body language, because that can help you decide how you're going to start a conversation.
Right, because that's all a part of communication. Yeah.
Right. And so much more of our communication is nonverbal than verbal. So are they alone? Are they talking with other people? Do they seem like the introvert? Do they seem like the extrovert? Do they seem like they're in their mind? So they could be sitting there, not in any particular mood, but not really engaging with the environment around you. And so that can help you decide what kind of questions or what kind of line. Like, if I see someone, because I'm not shy most of the time, I'm not even gonna act like I am. But if I notice a guy noticing me and he seems to be fairly social, I promise you, without missing a beat, I will tell him, so I notice you noticing me, noticing you. What are we going to do about this? And they'd be like, well, darn, you know. So, but I wouldn't necessarily do that with someone who's super closed off.
That's fair, right?
You
Reading
know,
the
I
room,
might
reading the
even,
room.
I might even tell them. So I notice you noticing me. You mind if I sit down? Something appropriate for
Right,
how they are coming across, because they
right.
could be an extrovert and just not been displaying it.
Mhm.
But read the room.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I want to pivot back just a little bit. We were talking about conversation etiquette, right? Because I feel like we kind of veered off to that a little bit.
Yes, we did, and there was nothing
Yeah,
wrong with that.
yeah, I want to tap onto that just a little bit, especially since we're talking about dating and burnout. I will say I have engaged a few women where I feel like it was overshare too soon.
Hmm.
I'm never one that's in space of denying someone the opportunity to express themselves freely and wholly. However, there are some things you should wait to share. Some things I don't want to know right now.
Hmm.
And I get
Yeah.
some people are very comfortable and open and willing to share all the things about themselves, and that's
Hmm.
okay. But maybe being mindful of the person that you're communicating with, they may not be in space to hear that.
Hmm.
Like I had a woman who, told me about some trauma of hers from childhood. And although I listen with open mind and open heart because you're sharing this space, however, I was like, this is a lot fast because I'm also I can be very uh I can take on people's space sometimes, energy sometimes, right? And I'm in space now where I'm trying to navigate. First of all, I'm talking to you for the first time, so I'm trying to figure if I like you. That's number one. And
Hmm.
now I'm trying to figure out how to engage in this space while offering you compassion when I don't even know you.
Hmm. And the
Or
the
even talk
closest.
about something too sexual sometimes. So it's like, okay, wait a second. I done had women send me pictures. I'm like, baby, put that little pussy up. I ain't asked for that. I ain't even asked for it.
So, Fran, you know how I feel about that. You know how I feel. They don't know how I feel about it, but you know how I feel about it. I actually have a term for that. And when I'm talking to guys, I'm like, keep your dick off the table.
Mm-hmm.
Quit putting
Mm-hmm.
your dick on the table. That's because in if we're talking, if you're talking to a woman, if you're talking to a man, it doesn't matter. If you met me in person, then you've seen me. If you met me on a dating site, then you've seen me. So clearly you're attracted to me. That's kind of assumed. It wasn't my winning personality. Okay. I know you've seen them. I know you see. So we as humans are cognizant of what people find attractive about us on average. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you was big booty Kim in school, you know what he saw.
Uh-huh.
You So he knows what he saw, and he knows you know what he saw.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever arena you're in, so conversations that are excessively and hypersexualized.
Mm-hmm.
I have talked to guys who can turn anything sexual. They're like, "Oh, so what's your favorite color?" And I'm like, "Oh, yellow." Is that what color drawers you got on? I know you lying. Wait, what? So you what?
Uh-huh.
Um, but if if you are in a hypersexual space, it might be time to evaluate whether you need to communicate with other people. And again, we just need shirts. We need a sign that people can hold up to say, "Just read the room.
Read, bro.
Read the room. Read the room." Because if I ask you what's your guilty pleasure, if I ask you when's the last time you went on vacation,
Mm-hmm.
what was your? Because I like to know if people like to travel, how they like to travel, are they local travelers, international travelers? That's interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm asking you something like that, if I'm asking you about the last book you read,
Mm.
asking me my favorite position as a follow-up, it's not beneficial, I promise you. Like,
Mm.
I can guarantee you that, like, I can put my rent on that, that it's not gonna work out good for you
No,
at
no,
all.
no,
At
no,
at at all. And
no.
etiquette etiquette is also contingent upon
Uh-huh.
who and where you're at. If I
Mm-hmm.
meet you at a BDSM club, the conversation starters might be just a little bit different.
Right, because the room, the space is different.
Right.
And
And
not saying
so,
those, vanilla conversations or what in those spaces would be considered
right.
vanilla conversations don't happen or couldn't happen, but it might be a little go
But
over easy to pivot.
the opportunity and the
Uh-huh.
option to pivot
Mm-hmm.
is a little more likely than you asking me something like that after I got off of work and I'm still sitting in rush hour talking to you on the phone.
Right, right, right.
And so it's um again, this is a case by case, you know, basis. If we go with the average example of meeting someone at a bar, you know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know absolutely nothing other than the fact that you probably would be willing to sit on his face or fold her up. That's about as far as you get. But since you know that already, find out if they're single. Find out their last name. That's always good.
Or if they even want you to sit on their face, because
Yeah,
they may
I
not
mean,
want you to do
I,
that.
but find out if there's a mutual attraction, or find out, get there first. Don't
Mm-hmm.
um practice jumping. Practice your jump,
I
because
get
your
you.
vertical might be weak. Your vertical might be weak, you know.
Right, right. Well, I get that. So and it's going back when talking about conversation etiquette, it just appears on one thing we keep saying. Like I said, this is something that I heard continuously. Again, is to read the room.
We need a
Um,
sign. We need a
yeah,
sign to flash on the screen. Read the room.
yeah, and then also being able to communicate where you're uncomfortable, right? Because there are some people who
Right.
go to sexual questions because it's where they're comfortable. This space right
Mhm.
here, I know, I understand, I can engage here. Sitting
Right.
around talking about the newest article in Psychology Today may not be something that somebody can sit and talk about, because
Mhm.
I don't have the experience here, I don't have the interest here, but however, I talk about sex in this way, so I find comfort here, right? So people will go to
Mhm.
that, right? So being able to get to communicate to the person you're engaging with.
Right.
Look, you can even make it a joke. Look, I don't know how to have small talk. Say
Right.
something
Right.
crazy. So because that gives that person a chance to be able to, like, you know what? I heard you loud and clear. This is what you showed it. Let's see if we could make some work, right? But
Right.
I want to just, and as we're talking about conversation, no, it's not that kind, but I'm sorry, conversation etiquette. I think about the social influence when it comes to that, right?
Very much
Because
so.
so much of how we communicate and engage with people is through what we see, right? So what I want to give you, because we had this conversation before as far as social influences of communication. So I want to give you the chance to express before I say what I'm getting ready to say.
So look, don't be looking at me like that, friend. Because
Because
you already know what's going on in here, and they don't. And I feel it's safer for them to not know everything. But um, social influences are, for in my observation,
uh-huh.
um, it can be a factor or it can be a non-factor.
Mm.
I'm in the mindset of thinking for myself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so when I'm engaging someone, I'm not thinking about social media. I'm not thinking about the latest trends, the songs, the twerks, the TikToks. That's not even that's not even anywhere in the vicinity of how I'm engaging a person, because when I engage you, it's just you and me. Like, we're
Mm.
in this abyss and everything falls away, like in the Matrix, where everything just falls away and it's just them standing there. Um, However, I am aware that there are people who are easily influenced because,
Mm,
and I believe a lot of that is more associated with insecurities and being hyper aware of your person. Not even self
mm,
aware, not even officially self aware, but
mhm,
am I wearing the right clothes for guys? Am I the right height for her? I wonder if I'm making the right, because they got this list on TikTok. Girls don't want to go to Chili's, they don't want to go to this. So all of those things just kind of running rampant
mm,
through your mind when you first interact with someone and you're criticizing yourself,
mm,
and it's distracting. You don't actually
mm.
get to know the person because you're too mentally distracted. And so I'm not a fan of the fact that social media has an influence. um, I do believe that it's been beneficial in starting conversations like this,
Mhm.
and having the opportunity to have a dialogue and not just a monologue of opinions, but having an actual dialogue with all walks of life, all preferences, all thought processes, people who wouldn't normally cross paths or crossing paths on
Mhm.
social media. But when it comes to communication styles, starting conversations, and getting to know people, I'm I could do without it. 'Cause to me, it's more harm than good.
Mm. I want to add to that, but not just from the space of social media, but I think about how we have learned to socialize
Hmm.
in romantic spaces and platonic spaces just in our home life, right? Because that's
Hmm.
also social influence.
Hmm.
How did you watch your grandparents engage if you are born home where both grandparents were around, right? Or your
Right.
mother and father, whether they were together or not, how did they engage? How
Hmm.
did you learn to engage with your siblings? All of that is social influence
Right.
on how we engage with other people outside of our home.
Hmm.
Even talking about conversation starters, right? Because when you at home, which if you are a person that has siblings, this is where you learn how to engage. Before you even have friends, you got to
Yeah.
deal with the people in your house, okay?
Right. Right. Right.
So, what did that look like? How did you sit around and start conversations at the dinner table if you were one who ate at the dinner table with the entire family, right? Those are where you learn how to
Right.
read the room.
Right.
One of those
Right.
spaces you learn those first skills.
Right.
So, what did that look like? What did you take away from those social influences, and what did you leave behind with those social influences, right? I
Mm.
think a lot of that I think that also needs to be added when we're talking about social influence, because so much of what we talk about is just those external spaces, but
Right.
those internal spaces also matter, and they matter
Right.
heavily.
Very much so.
Hmm.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. You saying that made me think about it. So it's funny you said siblings, because I am the only child and the eldest because I was
Mm.
by myself for 10 years.
Mm.
And then I got siblings. So communication wise, I'm just getting to the point at the age I am, and my siblings are at the age they are. Well, we communicate like siblings instead of like parents and children. So
Mm.
all of that, you're right. All of that plays into how you interact with people. Because if I
Mhm.
think about it, I actually don't judge me, but a lot of times I judge how, if I'm going to keep talking to someone,
Uh-huh.
by a combination of their maturity and where they are in their sibling order.
Mm.
Because men who are the youngest, because
Mm.
I'll be like, why you want somebody to do it for you? You're the baby, aren't you? He'd be like, yeah. Oh, we're not gonna work. We're not gonna work because I'm not doing that. I'm
Oh,
not doing it.
look, he might be in space of compromise.
Right, which is why we won't be compatible in certain spaces. And I'm just like, I know that's why I said don't judge me. Don't
Listen,
judge
your preference is
me.
your preference, sugar.
Don't judge me. Well, you could judge me. I don't even care if
I
you
might
feel
say he
that.
know I wouldn't anyway.
I mean, but you saying that in that manner,
Uh-huh.
it does heavily who raised you
Mm-hmm.
and whose influences were most influential, because even growing up in the house, it might have been a neighbor, It
Yup.
might have been a teacher. It might have been, the couple that you see walk their dog every morning at
Mm-hmm.
7 a.m. when you're leaving for school.
Yup. Yup.
You
Yup.
know, and the influence can be good, bad, or indifferent.
Mm-hmm.
You just learn, you are ingrained with
Mm-hmm.
those things.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was I? I was in like the second grade, and this little boy I went to school with lived in my neighborhood. He brought me flowers, and my father was like, "Why are you bringing her flowers? He's too young for it." And my mom said he probably seen someone
Uh-huh.
giving a woman flowers, giving a
Uh-huh.
girl flowers. So he just assumes that's what you're supposed to do
Right,
when
right.
eh, they were off my bush in front of my window, I'd like to add. But
Look, at least he bought you ones you like.
look, let me tell you, I feel like that needs to be a life lesson for anybody who talks to me. If a second grader can bring me flowers, so can you.
Ooh.
But but it's my mom point. I remember very clearly my mom calming my father down and saying he probably just saw someone do it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
there's no other intent. There's no other. We're just mimicking the behaviors.
Yeah, yeah. And that's
Yeah.
something to also consider when engaging, especially we'll talk about just going back communication
Hmm.
with individuals. If your influence of what communication looks like has come from these particular spaces, you're only
Hmm.
going to navigate that way. Or even in
Right.
spaces like I think about another a form of social influence can be your last partners.
Right.
Because
Very
you
much
you
so.
carry that with you. What did you take
Hmm.
away from that particular relationship when it comes to communicating and comes to engaging and comes to expressing? Like, what did you take away from that relationship from that person? Right?
Right.
Because you
Right.
always leave a little bit of you whenever you leave a space,
Very much so.
rather intentional or not,
Hmm.
you know.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, but social influence, yes, it goes into dating burnout too, because it was the one somebody I was dating at the time when the whole list came out, she said to me, she said, you heard that? I hadn't even heard about the list. That's the crazy thing. And I was like, what you talking about? And then she was like, the list. I was like, I don't know. So then when I went looking for it and I found it, and she was like, because I was thinking to myself, like, dang, did we actually go on any dates? Like, am I cheap? And I was like, wait a second, hold on, what? I was like, listen, I'm
Hmm.
gonna tell you like this here. I said, I'm the type of person, I'm not looking for you to engage in me how somebody else does, because I'm me and
Hmm.
they're them. What you
Right.
doing with me is what you doing with me. Clearly, it's because I've even
Right.
expressed that I enjoy these things. So you're doing this
Right.
from the space of what I said. Don't compare what others are
Right.
doing to what I'm saying. Because I'm going to
Right.
tell you, hey, I like this, this, and this. Don't
Right.
do this, this, and this.
Right.
Point black period, right? But so like I said, talking about social like I said, influence, those are one of those spaces I was just like, I found myself lost because I hadn't experienced anything like that.
Hmm.
Especially with the question of, do you think, like, what do you think about this? Do you think these are good first dates, or should you
Hmm.
want to go ahead? And I'm just like, it's nothing I got anything against Chili's. I don't feed me Chili's, so I don't want you to
Hmm.
feed me Chili's. I have nothing
Right.
against Chili's. I
Right.
just don't eat there.
That's
I
not your
think they're
spot.
amazing with everybody else who won't eat
Right.
there.
Right.
This just what it is. So being able to engage in space, but again, when we talk about social influence, really being able to understand what it is that you really want, because I don't think social media influence are all bad. Just like you said, I don't think
Hmm.
our family. So of course, family influence can be very, good as well too. However, it's all about how much of that you take with you. That's what you
Right.
have to have discernment. What
Right.
of this can I really use, and what of this I can afford to get rid of?
Hmm.
Especially when we're talking about social media and media influence, right? Even when talking about like movies and videos and all the things that go outside of just social media platforms, being able to engage and say, this is something that I can really use. It's going to be beneficial to me as I move through space. So even if you're currently like, dating somebody in those spaces where it's not okay, just let that stuff go. And again, just
Hmm.
talking to your person like, hey, this is where we are. This is where I am. Where are you?
Right.
How can we engage? Do we need to pivot a little bit?
Hmm.
So it's just all that goes into all the things. But
Right.
yes, girl,
Right.
this dating, it's interesting.
Exhausting.
Yeah, I will say that,
Okay.
but I'm also one to say I am one to I want to promptly say I will take a knee because I understand that nobody is 100. No one is responsible for my happiness, my enjoyment
Right.
in a space when I'm
Right.
sharing with somebody else. No one can make you happy. The only thing people
Right.
can do is create spaces for you to enjoy.
Mhm,
You
mhm,
experiencing the happiness, you feeling that
mhm.
happiness.
That's
That's your job.
you. Mhm,
That's for you to do. So,
mhm,
like I said, yes, dating has been exhausting. When I tell y'all I
mhm.
took a knee, I said, you know what? I bow out. I can't do it. This is I need to look back and see what it is that how I want to engage dating differently, right? How
Mhm,
what are those things? What are some things that I really value in
mhm,
dating and what type of
mhm.
person that I really want to engage with when I think about communication? Because I will say for me, those past two dating experiences that I had, dating on communication was the main issue,
Mhm,
particularly communication methods. These
mhm,
women just could not grasp the idea of let's compromise. I know you
mhm.
like the text, but I'll call you blah blah blah. Just we
Right.
couldn't get on that
Right.
page, and I want to let you know. You know what? I
Mhm,
want you to be your best self, and it just
mhm,
may not be with me, and that's okay. I still like you and all the things, just
mhm.
over there.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So that's that. But
Yeah.
yes, we're getting ready to close out because we're here at the hour. Do you have
Yay.
any final thoughts to share? How about any advice to share with anybody, as far as, good thing, or I would say good dating habits. Do you have any good dating habit
I
tips?
I I do. Honestly, it's more about character
Ah.
than anything. And my encouragement to any one person
Mm-hmm.
is to be above reproach and be intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Because being intentional, it calls for pause,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So it is, I see this person got a lot going on, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not going to hold it against them that I didn't get a call back at the hour, on the hour, 5 times on the hour, or we've been communicating solid and they missed the day,
Uh-huh.
or whatever those scenarios look like.
Yeah.
But to decide what your intentions are and how you want to interact with this person,
Mm-hmm.
because then you get to decide all the other stuff, the communication, the dates, the attentiveness, the whatever goes on. It's like a thread that you just keep pulling, but you foundationally, it's your intent.
Mm-hmm.
It's your
Mm-hmm.
intent. Do I want to get to know this person? Am I just playing around with this person? And what is the intent? Um, and I would love if people were more clear about their intent, because you know how I feel about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
But
yeah.
but yeah, that's being intentional is like my
Mm.
biggest thing to
Yes.
want to share and to have fun. To have fun.
Mm.
Everything doesn't have to
Yes.
be a Spanish Inquisition.
Mhm.
How old are you? How many kids you got? What you doing this? What's your 5-year plan? Are you interviewing me for BP? Like, am I going to own a company? Is this benefit? Am I getting an upgrade? But yeah, have fun. 'Cause
Yeah.
sometimes I think that's the other component we're lacking in dating
Mm.
because of social and because of societal, not just social, because of societal influences.
Mm.
We're missing the fun component.
Mm.
Don't die alone. Don't be single.
Mm.
Vacations and the trips and the date nights and Valentine's, and so we forget to have fun because we're too busy trying not to be alone.
I like that you said that. Intentional, be intentional and have fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming into the space and sharing your experience, your expertise, and just your love. I appreciate you. I adore you with your gorgeous self. But you got some events coming up. I need people to know where they can find you and things that you're doing in the community and getting ready to do in the community. So what's up? What you got?
Ooh, well, I'm always with the lupus advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
So I will actually forward the details for you, to you rather. I will be doing a radio show here locally in Sacramento, uh,
Ooh.
for lupus awareness,
Uh-huh.
next Saturday. I'm also hosting my first poetry night. Um,
Congratulations.
I am excited about that. I don't know if it's something I want to live stream. It is my first event, but I do
Uh-huh.
know that it will be something that if I keep doing it, I will look at live streaming it. And May is Lupus Awareness Month,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
that is the big overhanging project coming up is lupus awareness, the videos and the TikToks. If anyone is interested in finding out more about lupus, they can find me on Instagram at Purple for a Purpose, and it's purple the number four a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
All right, Lo. Well, thank you so much. Again, congratulations
Thank
on all
you.
the things you are doing and getting ready to do. I appreciate y'all for watching, engaging. It's Tyranikia Chappelle on Sex on Van on TDS Radio, our voice, our culture.
And don't forget